welcome to Just Another Podcast. I am joined today by Lisa Sturgeon, a good friend of mine, and she's launching a new, business, I would say, getting married in Maine, but she's also the senior account strategist at Sutherland Weston in Bangor, as well as the adjunct professor at Husson University, and most importantly, a wife and a mom. How's it going, Lisa?
Good. Thanks for having me, Justin.
I'm glad to have you. It worked out really well. I had a list of like people that I want to get in touch with and talk to, and you were one of them to talk about marketing and what you do with communications at Sutherland Weston. But you just posted something this weekend saying that you were starting a new adventure. So I thought, well, that's even more important to talk about because it's something new. So first of all, who are you?
Yeah. Well, I guess how much time do we have, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think you did a great job of the titles I wear, the different hats that I wear. So I'm a lifelong Mainer, born, raised, decided to stay, and really my goal is to make Maine a destination and a home for as many people as we can. And I know that kind of sounds like a fluff answer, but it's true. I think the state of Maine has a great opportunities. And when I was going through high school, I saw a lot of people a few years older than me leave. And tides have changed a little bit. A lot of people are more staying, finding reasons to stay, or moving back to Maine, which is so wonderful to see. And so with the three jobs that I currently have, I basically work to make sure that people find opportunities for them to stay and show off how wonderful Maine is. So my husband went away to college and came back. I roped him into staying in Maine. And then our son, who just turned 3 a little while ago, I want to give him as many opportunities in life that he can have. But if he can call Maine home, if he wants to call Maine home, then, that's the best thing I could ask for.
I mean, and there's also that aspect of I moved away.
Yeah.
So when I was 20, I moved to Massachusetts, and it almost made me, for me to move away, for me to realize what I was missing in a sense, like get a sense of what it's like outside the state of Maine. I mean, I only moved to Massachusetts, but it's like, it's still outside of Maine. And then when I came back, it was my ex who moved me back.
Mm-hmm.
I then fell in love with Maine again, like all over again, just because, I don't know, maybe it's because I matured and became more of an adult and understood what Maine had to offer. Or maybe it's just that, it took that time to get away to come back, and maybe
always greener on the other side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. And actually, Lisa and I have a small connection too, is because I met Lisa because I was working at another Maine business at Gagan's Brothers Brewing Company and Pub. And then we also worked together on the events committee for the Maine Brewers Guild. So Maine has been definitely a part of the connection that we got together, is beer in Maine. But yeah, so Maine's a fun place to be. And I just got married in Maine. And so I didn't have someone like Lisa. We actually talk about that a lot, about how we saved a bunch of money by doing a lot of things ourselves.
Yeah.
But there was one thing that I think we could have spent up on, not crazy amounts, obviously, because it's not super expensive to have someone help plan your wedding. But like the day of, having some order would have been, I mean, Taylor did a great job, but like some order and having someone be like, no, do this and do that and so on. But so this cool new venture is awesome.
Exactly.
So
cool. What are you drinking?
Maine Farmer.
Cool.
Our wet hop beer. I have one left. So we had Mike over, who was technically kind of the person who ran my wedding. Mike Durgan is like, I get so many compliments right now. I got married on August 8th, and he was like, do this and don't do this, and we need to put this over here. We need to do that. And he just did it on his own, not because he was best man.
Pseudo father. He's lovely.
It's unbelievable. So it was kind of funny, but he was here yesterday. Him and Karen and Karen's son Aaron had a little cookout here yesterday, and he's like, "Can I take the rest of that beer?" I'm like, "Leave one. I want one. Don't take all of them." But then this was the one that was left over. So I just set up a new desk in my office, and I thought I could deserve a beer to treat myself on my day off. But so you got married in Maine.
I got married in Maine. Yeah, 6 years ago now. Which
6 years ago.
Kind of crazy. Yeah.
I felt like it was just yesterday.
Right.
But I mean, I've only been back here for what was it, 4 years now, but it seemed like you guys were just recently married when I first met you, which 2 years is still just recently married. But
Yeah. You know, if
did
you can
you?
still act like newlyweds, you know, it's a good thing.
Yeah. And then you have a 3-year-old, like you said, and you have a couple dogs.
Yes.
And is that it? You have cats too, or just
We
dogs?
have one cat, Luna, who's 2. She
Jesus
thinks she's a
Christ.
dog. So
You have a full household.
we have a full
And
house.
and I know Brian, so that's even more of a full household. So,
Yeah, I have 2 kids.
but so what made you, other than the Maine thing,
Yeah.
in getting married in Maine, but what made you? I know you have some background in event management and planning, but like, what made you do this?
So I went to school. I went to college for hospitality management. And I think any person who gets kind of wrapped up into graduating from college and getting your first, you know, adult job, and then life kind of snowballs and you get married and you have kids, and then you, I don't want to say forget, but life how you envisioned kind of gets put on the back burner a little bit. And COVID has given me the permission of time. I'm a very busy person, as you alluded to, with teaching and my job at Sutherland Weston, and being involved in the community, and being able to take a step back and think about what I really enjoy and what I've been really missing in my life. Um, was important. And so my best friend got married this summer, and we were supposed to be going to a destination wedding in Jamaica, and that clearly didn't happen. And so we replanned her wedding. She had asked me to officiate the wedding prior to COVID. So I went through the process, got my notary license, and we were just going to have a small little ceremony before going to Jamaica, and then do a big destination wedding with about 50 people there. And um, so we had to pivot, and we replanned her wedding twice, because she originally wanted to try to get married on a schooner in Maine, which would have been lovely, but the COVID restrictions on reopening uh, weren't possible. And so we kind of pivoted that vision again. And it was a lovely ceremony right on the coast of Maine, intimate, beautiful, but with the connections of people that I had done events with previously, we were able to pull it off under budget within 2 weeks. And it the worst thing was, uh, um, I joke, my husband and I got married in a hurricane, and Sarah's my best friend, and Adam is one of my husband's best friends, and we have a lot of similarities in common. And we got married when Hurricane Arthur hit Maine, and that weekend a hurricane was scheduled to hit Maine again during their wedding. We went to bed Friday night with a chance of rain. It was like 93% or something like that. And then we woke up in the morning and it was 12%, and it didn't rain all day. And it was perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a funny connection. So every time that Lisa plans a wedding now, guys, just to let everybody know, it's going to be a hurricane. Just so
No,
you're
no, no,
aware.
no, no, that's not a good selling point. No. But
She
yeah.
comes in like a storm. There you go. There's a little marketing thing. But yeah, that's awesome. That's pretty cool. I mean, we obviously had that problem with COVID. Um, it's the funny thing is hopefully we don't have to do this again because of the way the world works. But like, it would be a kind of like, it's almost like a achievement on your resume of planning events. Like, no, I planned it during a pandemic. I have that ability.
Exactly. And that was kind of my thought process, is there are couples out there. I mean, in a perfect world, you only get married once, maybe twice, right? So this is not what you do on the day to day, is planning events, or planning weddings. And having somebody who does that for a living um, adds some comfort in the planning process. It takes that stress away, and I thrive on that. And so being able to pivot quickly, using my marketing background, my communications background, and help people at the core is hospitality, help people feel comfortable and relaxed. And so you put all of those things together and it's like, well, why not now? And so for 10 years, over 10 years, I've been planning events across the country when I worked at the airport, and then through my job at Gagan's. And that's really part of my life that was missing, was the event side of things. And so um, why not? If I don't do it now, then I'm never going to do it. And I have the flexibility with my job here at Sutherland Weston um, to take that leap and try it out and see how it goes.
And it's one thing we did learn, as you do a wedding, some of the things, like you said, hindsight's 2020. Some of the things you don't understand and don't get until after you're done. So the benefit I got from having a practice wedding was some of the things that I got to practice and decide that, I wanted small. No, this time I don't want it small, or don't want this or whatever. But
Yeah.
as someone who does ceremonies and events for people, you're going to have all of that. I did a small wedding, a large wedding, elopement, and this, that, and the other thing that you can bring in your knowledge to people and know that, you're married, so you went through a wedding, so you know what it costs. So you
Yeah.
can be like, I understand trying to keep the budget down, but if you're going to spend up for something, do this or the opposite or whatever. It's just a thing that like I said, it was planning ahead of time. First of all, I didn't know what the hell was going to happen. Like, we were going to get married on August 8th, period. We just liked the date 08/08/2020. We just liked that whole thing. We liked, everything. So, obviously there's a sad moment. We had a Millinocket wedding this past summer that had a COVID outbreak caused from the wedding. If that would have happened 10 days earlier,
Yeah.
we would have had we would have been in my yard with two people, a witness and the officiant and us, just getting married and saying, we're going to have a ceremony and a party some other time.
Yeah.
Because that happened August 7th and no one really found out about it until the following week or so, we got married on August 8th and we were safe because obviously no one contracted COVID or gave COVID or did anything at our wedding. And part of that was why we didn't have anybody helping us plan our wedding, because it was like, we don't know what the hell is going to happen. So I don't want to draw a lot of people into this to then say, hey, guess what? It's not going to happen. Thanks for all the help, but we're not doing it. And so hopefully in a normal situation, next summer, hopefully, or the spring or whatever, you'll be able to plan some weddings that are not restricted to a point where you have to do this or you have to do that. And then having someone to guide them along the process, like what you can do, would be awesome. So.
Yeah, it's it's definitely an interesting time, that's for sure. And a lot of people are wondering why now. But the question is, there's never a good time. There's never a good time to have kids. There's never a good time to really get married. There's never a good time to start a business. There's definitely bad times to do all of those things, but there's never a perfect time. And if you don't listen to yourself and take a chance, then you're never going to know. So.
And you'll do things like you'll plan and then have someone else officiate. You'll design some stuff and have someone else plan it. You'll officiate and not design anything, right? There's all kinds of options for people to do with getting married in Maine.
Yeah, so we're a full service planning, design, and officiating company. I'm working with a bunch of friends that I've met through connections in the hospitality industry or through Hassan's Hospitality School. And it's just a really exciting time to become kind of the conduit to planning and venues and vendors and officiating. And it's just a really cool concept. So we can do everything from planning your wedding, coordinating with vendors, negotiating contracts, all the kind of things that go into leading up to the day of, to designing color schemes and working on textures and, invitations and creating monograms and logos for your, the couple. And then officiating. One of the biggest things that I have found that couples who get married in Maine from away, whether they're coming back to do a family wedding here locally or they just want to do a destination wedding in Maine, is finding an officiant that works for their style, that they have some sort of connection to, or just really can find easily. And so being able to offer that service is something else that I'm really excited about. Plus also walking through a ceremony through an event planner's brain is different than just a minister or a pastor that doesn't necessarily do events for a living either. So yeah.
And so it's funny is you have the mentality of, you know, no one really might know who to officiate their wedding, especially if they're going from out of state to come in here, or have no connection to a church or no connection to someone who can do another notary. I mean, my father-in-law's a notary public, so he could have married us and so on. But I had, my grandmother had the hardest time understanding that my dad was not going to do the wedding. Like,
Yeah.
she just didn't understand in her head. She's like, but your dad's a pastor. I was like, I understand that. But if I just went with the fact that this so-and-so is a pastor, I would have 6 people officiating my wedding because of my
Right.
background. I've got, Andy, you've got my friend Brian Keyser, who ended up doing the wedding. You got my friend Jim, my dad, my pastor from Connecticut or Massachusetts when I was going to church down there. So it's like, there's a number of people who could have officiated my wedding. And now, Lisa could have done it. So it's just so funny. My grandmother just did not understand. She's like, but your dad's a pastor. I was like, yeah, it's a small 50-person wedding. We had 48 people because of COVID. And I wanted my mom, who was the only other person coming from like that side, to sit next to my dad.
Yeah.
Like if he stood up and was the officiant the entire time,
She's just sitting there.
then she's sitting there by herself. And I was like, and my brother was in the wedding. So it's not like so I was like, it'd be really nice. So it was great because I also got to invite another friend, good friend, Brian Keyser. But I had that extra, the opposite, like I was saying. It's like I had too many people that could do my wedding. When
Yeah.
there's definitely this side where there's people who don't know who can
Yeah.
do their wedding. And the name is perfect. And I can't believe that it's not taken. Website. When I was like looking up ahead of this recording and like following you on Instagram and stuff, I was like, how did you get all of that? Like, they're all perfect. Everything, single one of them is getting married in Maine. You didn't have to do getting married in ME, and you didn't have to, you had all the, it surprises me sometimes someone hasn't taken a brand yet like that.
You and me both, because I was like, it's really funny. The brain that I use, to create this. If you're in marketing, which you are, you understand, like, that was the direction I went, not, necessarily what's my logo going to look like, or, what are, oh, I'm going to name this business this. It was, let's go to domain registration and find out what domains are available and what, handles are available and where can I find a match. And shockingly, getting married in Maine was not taken. And there's a lot of things I'm excited to play on that. Congratulations on getting married in Maine, or thank you for getting married in Maine. But being able to celebrate a couple, whether they're from here or from away, there's something special about Maine. And to say that you're getting married in Maine, I think creates a vision, regardless if that's in a field or on a mountain or on the coast. It creates an experience in itself. And regardless if you get married in a hurricane or in a snowstorm, it's beautiful. And so it's about those two people celebrating their love and celebrating the love with those that they care about, regardless if that's an elopement, which we do offer. And I really hope somebody takes advantage of this one day. Is I want to plan an elopement, and they literally have no idea what's going to happen, where they're getting married. It's just I just want to get married in Maine, and we're gonna plan everything. So that's an option if anybody's listening, and that sounds cool. But yeah.
That's really cool because a lot of people elopements. It's just, and you're right. It's when we talked prior, like when March 15th or 16th hit, and where I work or in a brewing company shut down
Yeah.
for business, we were like, oh crap, like what are we gonna do? Like we're getting married a couple, like, oh, it's August. It's August. And then
It'll be
as
fine.
it kept on coming, creeping closer, and we're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And then when we said we just want to get married, period. That's the wedding ceremony is something you want to remember forever, and we're glad we were able to do something.
Right.
But the purpose is I want to be with my wife forever.
Yeah.
The ceremony is going to be a blip in our memory 30 years from now. It's the journey on that. So if someone does want to get elopement, that would be a pretty sweet thing to do. Just be like, it's like that people who plan dates for them and they don't know. You open an
Yeah.
envelope and you go here. That
Yeah.
because most people just wanted to go to the courthouse because it's easy. But if they were able to do it, be like, oh, where do I go? Like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're standing on a dock somewhere that you
Exactly.
picked out, and that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I really hope that happens too.
Photographer, all of it done. Flowers done. Like learning from Sarah this year, who knows exactly what she doesn't like, but doesn't know necessarily what she does like. Having fewer options for some people are better. You get overwhelmed with all of the what ifs, and I think this is a cool concept that you don't have to worry about that. Somebody just takes care of it for you.
I think I just was thinking when you said thank you for getting married in Maine. I feel like that's like an offshoot company that just does thank you cards for you guys.
Yeah.
So like, like, oh, this is a package we offer. It's called Thank You for Getting. It's just your thank you cards with your picture of your wedding on it.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. It's eh, you have to get married to understand some of the things like I mentioned earlier that you're missing out on.
Yeah.
But it also is like people tell you stuff that on your wedding day, this is going to happen. You're like, nah, it's not for me. It's not going to happen for you. And then you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh my God, they were right the entire time. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you're barely going to eat on your wedding day. Like, you're going to eat prior. You're going to eat all day. Like, you're going to snack on some things or whatever, sandwiches or whatever. But once the wedding starts and you have your, like, honestly, most people should give two craps about what their food is because you're not going to eat it. Like, we ate a bite of taco. We had taco bar, like
But
maybe.
that is like that right there is the number one reason to have a wedding planner. If for anything, is they're the ones that are making sure that you are eating. They're the ones that are making sure that, if you didn't get to eat your meal because you were dancing or talking with friends and family, that's packaged up and you can enjoy it later. Taking care of how, grandma ended up at the wrong hotel, like that happens. And at the end of the day, if the bride and groom don't know that there were any problems during the day, or at least they were minimal and just updated, like that's success. You should not go to the bride and groom on the day of with problems. And that's, from family to vendors to anyone, that should be the day that they get to relax, and having someone else be that point person to problem solve and pivot and reorganize and adjust, because like you said, those things do happen and you can't predict what that thing is going to be until it happens. But yeah.
At Mike's daughter's wedding, Katie, we all got invited, and Addie and Casey stayed. So we ended up renting an Airbnb down the street, and we got ourselves to the wedding. But there was these like shuttles that were taking people to, because there's no parking at the place in I think it's in Winslow.
Winthrop.
Winthrop, yes. There's a place down there, and they were doing these shuttle stuff, and then Addie and Casey got confused, thinking there was one more coming,
Yeah.
and they got stuck behind. So they ended up having to drive from there to another pot, and they walked in like at the last minute. But the only people's numbers they could potentially have, like I had some people at my wedding that only knew me and Taylor. Like
Yeah.
there was times that only way they could communicate with us is to get a hold of us.
Right.
But if there was someone managing and running the wedding, then you could say, here's this person's phone number or email or whatever.
Yep.
To contact them if you have any problems on the day of the wedding, because they're the ones that are going to help you. And you can be like, oh yeah, I'll send someone down, or the shuttle's coming in 5 minutes to this location or whatnot. Like,
Exactly.
and that was the biggest thing for us. Like our ceremony, we got married at Camp Roosevelt, which is a beautiful, inexpensive venue in Maine with views of the lake for photos. And it's just a big wooden building. It's beautiful. However, the downside is you can't get in except for 9:00 in the morning of the day of your wedding.
Yeah.
So you can't do the rehearsal dinner there. You can't get set up on before, and so on and so forth. So even more of the side of wanting to have someone who plans your wedding and manages that is that on the day of the wedding, we were making decisions. But if we were to tell Lisa,
Yeah.
this is what we want this white thing, this, that, we have all these different decorations. Now you have your people, or you do
Right.
the stuff. And then when we have my brother's coming, so he can help you out if you need help. And, my cousin's coming, he can help me move tables or whatever. But then we can just like potentially show up a little later
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
one of the
totally.
things that we kind of like got sad about was we were so tired by 4 o'clock in the afternoon because we got up so early
Yeah.
that if you had someone else there to do that, then you could just be like, okay, maybe we'll come at noon, and then we'll, I'll get ready and you'll get ready, and make a few small decisions that you check in with us about. Those are the kind of things that like I wish this was like wish we had talked, you and I, back in March, because maybe they would have been at least prototype, and would get some stuff under your resume kind of thing for
Exactly.
helping us. But it obviously went perfectly for us because it ended up the way we wanted it and everything. But like that was the one thing we talked about afterwards. Photographer was great, food was great, the venue was great, people there was great, everything was great.
Right.
The one thing is the stress of trying to do it all yourself, and that
And
was
and that's the biggest thing. Like, even if you aren't, if you find yourself not working with a coordinator, is finding time to set up a table how you want it to look like and take a picture and then share it with someone else. And then that way, like you said, your brother showing up, your cousin showing up, whoever's showing up goes, okay, this is exactly what it needs to look like. Here we go. Kind of thing. And so if anytime you can delegate, and it's taken me years to be comfortable with delegating because I am a control freak. But I've found tricks to help that delegation, right? And that's one of them. Um, any way that you are spending hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars on a wedding, um, and the worst thing you can do is not enjoy it.
or spend all that money and have it not go the way you like want. You said enjoy it, but enjoy it after the fact too. But like spend all that money on a wedding and then have it go kind of awry in the middle of it because you didn't have something.
Right.
Oh crap, I forgot this one thing, and then it snowballs to the next thing and so on.
Right.
But one thing we were happy we did because we had such a small group. When you have 50 people at a wedding, it's
Yeah.
mostly people you have to be there. It sounds weird, but like
You really
family. So like my grandparents and Taylor's grandparents and all, people that are not going to dance or do stuff like that. So it's like one thing we did do at the end of it was like, we're not paying for a DJ. That's just an extra setup, extra cost. And just like what happened, the wedding kind of fizzled out at the end because it was early and people had to drive away and no one really wanted to stay at hotels. And we were Eddington is no close place to stay anyway. We stayed at Lucerne, and that was still a 15-minute drive. So um, but the Spotify playlist was perfect. We just pressed play on it for music, and if people wanted to dance, they could dance and so on. But like these are the things that a wedding planner could help you with too. Where do you want to save money? Oh, I don't need a DJ. Okay, let's boost the money you're going to use for a DJ. Let's slide some of it into this little spot over here that might be more beneficial to you.
right.
And those are all decisions that we were able to make. But some people just, I do have a marketing background, and we have a planning mentality, but
Yeah.
there's definitely people who don't have planning mentalities. Like there's
No.
definitely people who show up and go, I don't know.
Yeah. I worked on a wedding last summer, and it was my husband's best friend. And they're two scientists, and working in the events world is not their forte. They're brilliant people, kind people, but just they've never planned a wedding before. And there's some nuances that you have to, take into account. Um, One thing I always love asking, any couple that's planning their wedding is, what's the thing that's most important to you that day? And that could be the photos, that could be a videographer, that could be the food. It could be a whole host of things. The answers sometimes are hilarious, and sometimes, not what you would necessarily expect, but that's what makes each couple unique and what wedding unique. And that is the driving force of, like you said, Justin, um, where can I save money, and how can I ensure that I'm going to have the experience that I want?
And in the, like, we talk about saving money because it's obviously like unless you're well to do off, like to the point where you don't think about money, it's always going to be a driving factor is money's money, 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 money. But again, we talked about the idea that if you spend thousands of dollars on a wedding, a few dollars more to help it run to the point where it's worth spending that $1,000, you wouldn't buy a house willy nilly and not spend money on a person doing an inspection,
Exactly.
because then it's those are the kind of things that like, and so it is, hindsight is 2020. And I was, as a person who has just recently got married, I'm only a few months into my marriage, it would have been worth me paying someone even a few $100s to do the smallest little thing that
Yeah.
on the day of my wedding, I could wake up and be like, hey, I'm getting married today. And
Yeah.
that's what I was worried about.
Right.
Not, did someone put the cloths in the back of their, who got the cater, who got the,
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
that aspect of it. And I will say there is some things that some people already handle. I mean, the catering company, we did Jeff's Catering because of it. They're the ones that cater that venue. They were excellent. They were on top of everything. They brought the tablecloths and all that stuff. They were really good about that. But then other than that, there was no, like, the lady like unlocked the door, have a good day, and left.
Yeah.
And it's like, so there is some of that aspect that some places do have some organization of people who work there. But I will say, if you save money on a venue, then maybe slot some of that money over to help someone have at least to be there the day of. Like,
Yeah.
even if you were like coordinated and had a meeting with us 2 weeks prior and say, what do you want the day of? That you didn't do anything prior. I
Right.
just want you to manage the day.
Yeah.
We'll give you X amount of dollars. You manage the day. That would have been something we would have absolutely loved as well. So
And also saying, okay, here's your plan, and you think you've got, everything, down timeline wise and I's dot T's crossed. And then, somebody that does this goes, okay, well, where's this? Or, well, what's the order of the processional and why? And, oh, we didn't even think of that. I think that that's important. It also allows you to, like you said, you were making decisions day of, and you don't have to do that.
how much is this wanting to help people, but how much is it wanting to do a wedding over and over and over again in your mind? Like,
Um, I think it's, 80/20. I had a day of coordinator, um, because I knew that like I said, I was that control freak, and not having to be the person that people went to over and over again, was important to me. And so, I would do our wedding over again all the time. Um, but I think seeing how different couples operate, um, and you don't want wedding planning to be the test of how the marriage is going to go, right? Like, your wedding planning should be an enjoyable experience, whether it's going to be weeks or months or years of that planning process. And so to have somebody that's your best friend during the planning process, I think, is important. It also alleviates that relationship with your best friend who may not be getting married, and so they're sick and tired of hearing you talk about, is this white or ecru
mhm.
or ivory, and they just want to be over and done with. And so, having an event planner, work with you, helps those things. And like I said, it's also talking about Maine. It's selling Maine, to couples that might not know that you can have a destination wedding in Maine if you live here. It's, staycations are on the rise because of COVID. And I think the highlight of, we joke, going to Bar Harbor in the winter is a Mainer's, favorite thing to do because it's not tourist season. And you can pull off some beautiful weddings in the middle of winter. But you can also do some lovely weddings, any of the other time of the year. You just need somebody to show the opportunities to you. Um, and also not making your wedding like any other wedding, right? Like, no two couples are alike, no two weddings should be alike. And that's really my elevator pitch between a venue wedding coordinator and a actual, independent wedding coordinator. And that is the venue coordinator. Their job is to make sure that everything at that venue runs successfully, and they work hand in hand with an independent wedding coordinator. But their goal is this is what the wedding looks like for our staff. This is what we do. Um, it might look exactly like the wedding that was there 2 weeks ago. That their job is not to design a new experience. Their job is to make sure everything goes smoothly. And so that's one of the things that I often, get asked. And so to be able to tell people, they do a great job, but their job is not to think out of the box in those aspects.
It's funny how you mentioned about the Maine thing, that the getting married in Maine. It's not just getting married. You don't have gettingmarried.com. It's getting married in Maine, which, first of all, there are people who are going to Google that terminology.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm getting married in Maine. As things progress, and hopefully you'll be the first person to get a
You
hold of
know,
it. But
SEO is a thing. So
yes, And if you need help with that, I know a company that can do that.
Right?
But the idea that we love Maine. Taylor's been hiking since she was young. I love Maine. We love Bar Harbor. We love going all over the place. We've hiked together. We've gone canoeing, kayaking, all that stuff. But it took us this COVID situation
Yeah.
to do drives around Maine in our cars. Don't get out of the car. We ate lunch in our. We packed lunch and we drove around to understand the beauty of Maine and all these different spots. And it's like we couldn't go to Arizona like we were planning to and see the Grand Canyon for our honeymoon, so we went to Sugarloaf and stayed in a condo in Sugarloaf. And
Yeah.
I had never been to Sugarloaf because I don't ski or
Right.
snowboard or any of that stuff. So there's no reason for me to go to Sugarloaf in the wintertime. It's a madhouse for no reason.
Right.
So
It's
why don't
Bar
I go in
Harbor
the
in the summer,
summertime?
only in winter. It's pretty funny, but yeah.
And so I went to the summertime and I'm like, oh my God. And the lady at the 485 North, one of the restaurants on the mountain or near the bottom of the mountain goes, I came for the winters, stayed for the summers. And we wanted to go back so many times to Sugarloaf. I feel like if we hadn't planned already and we were going to get an elopement or a quick ceremony, we may have just done it out at Sugarloaf because it's so beautiful out there. So
Yeah.
yes, like the destination point in if we were to like, say you want to get married again tomorrow, we're probably not going to pick Eddington again. We're going to pick somewhere else because there's thousands of places to get married in this beautiful state with a different background, with a different whatever,
Yeah.
outdoors, indoors, winter, summer, spring, fall. Like there's just so many options in Maine. Getting married in Florida,
Right.
there's like three options. It's like, okay, you better do it inside because it's likely going to rain at some point during your ceremony. And what else is there? Like it's just flat and swamps.
And it's yeah.
And
And
so in Maine, it's like there's rivers, there's streams, there's mountains, there's flatlands, there's the ocean, there's fall,
right.
foliage, there's summer. So it's like, yes, there's so many different options. But like I was saying before, how much is this wanting to get? Like I am jealous of you in a sense that there are a number of decisions we made for our wedding that we could have gone a different way and still been just as
Yeah.
happy. And
Yeah.
so like we went with blues and yellows as our colors. Oh, would have completely been good with a different color scheme, but I only get one wedding. So that's what we decided to do. But you were like, okay, this couple looks like, yes, blues and greens would be this good. And then you go to the next one, you're like, oh, blues and yellows would be better for this couple. And then you get to do that over and over and over again, which is kind of cool in a world of one of the things I like about marketing and communication is that you do get to do different things all the time,
Yeah.
depending on the client and so on and so forth. And you're just shifting that over to event planning.
Exactly.
And that's pretty cool too, because you get to plan a wedding over and over and over again. And I would believe that a number of weddings you do just regrows the love and affection you have for your husband and your marriage and that aspect of it too, because you're just,
Well, we hope, right?
but I say you look at it again and it's almost like it makes you think and it makes you
Yeah.
go into the point where it's like, oh, I remember my wedding day. If you're at a wedding, I can just imagine you going, I remember us being up there and so on. I mean, but I
Yeah.
just,
I don't know. It's funny you say that. I don't necessarily think of it that way. I think that's the hospitality side, and like it- you've worked in that industry, but if you can make somebody smile, like to me that is the epitome of a compliment, right?
mm,
If somebody is so happy that you made them smile and it's genuine, whether that's the bride and the groom or that's the mother of the bride or the father of the bride who their little girl is getting married, or you know you've got a couple from away and they don't have family and they came here to elope and they are just happy. um to me that means the world.
and that's perfect. And it's like it's someone who cares. It's not
Yeah.
you didn't get this business handed down to you
No.
in a sense that like your parents had this business and here now your job is to do this and it's you started this from scratch in a sense that you're doing this because you love doing it. And it, again, like we said, is that aspect of you're gonna care just as much as the bride and groom
Right.
and the family and all that stuff. And it's not one person's job. It's us as a couple. I don't fix my own car. I have someone fix my car for me. So why wouldn't you think of someone who's done this before? And even if it's for the smallest thing, I'm guaranteeing, and I don't know any of the packages or anything like that you're doing, but I guarantee there's this small little tiny insy bitsy things in massive we'll do everything packages.
Yeah, yeah. And I think having I think having people understand that everybody's got an opinion. I can only imagine how many people asked you, slightly asked you what your wedding plans were and then say, oh, you should have done it this way or that way. And, I think you can you could get stressed by taking on everybody else's thoughts and opinions. But by able to just say, yeah, we've got somebody taking care of that kind of, you know, shuts that down. And also you don't have to worry about not hurting somebody else's feelings either.
And
Because
it's your day.
right, exactly.
That's the thing. We try to wake up every single morning planning on our event to go out the week prior and all that stuff. That was like, that was your day. And it's like Taylor's Nana, well, it was just funny because she'll never listen to this, so I don't really care if I talk about it. But she'll,
Watch, it's
she
the
was
one
like,
episode.
yeah, she's like, oh, the cake, was okay. And I'm like, you didn't even eat any. She goes, yeah, but it looked okay. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, I could have made a cake for you. I'm like, our dessert for everybody was my mom, Taylor's mom, and Taylor's Nana, all three different, like, my side of the family, Taylor's mom's side of the family, Taylor's dad's side of the family, all made whoopie pies. And that was
Yeah.
our main, very mainish thing. And so you did help us make a dessert, but the cake was made by Sweets by Wilhelmina, Jillian. And
Yeah.
so she did an unbelievable job. It was one of the best cakes we've ever tasted in our lives. But it was just this funny thing. And then we got the pictures back and we showed some pictures and she goes, oh, that was your photographer? And I'm like, what are you going to like about this entire ceremony at all? Like, were you going to be like, I could have taken better pictures than that? Is that what she's going to say to me? I'm like, it's just so funny that, in the sense, if something goes bad, I can be like, it wasn't me, it was Lisa. Lisa
Right.
did it. It wasn't me.
Right? No, but like that's the thing, that having an advocate for you, I mean, is part of the job. And saying, this is why we're doing it, because you said that you loved this cake designer, so that's who you used. Or you can say, no, like, this is who they recommended. I have seen countless times couples getting married and having somebody with, albeit very good intentions, give them advice, but you can see that it causes inner turmoil or more stress. And to be able to have somebody that says, hey, no, this is your day, what do you want? And then go make that happen. Like, it's your day. If you want to get married in superhero t-shirts, by all means, like, that's what you're going to do. But
and having a third party do that's not your mom, your dad, your wife or husband's mom or dad. It's that aspect of, like, I have to ask my mom about inviting certain guests, and it's like my mom would be like, it's up to you, or you should do this, and then the other side was mad because we didn't invite this person, and so on. It's like, if I was like, can I talk to someone who's impartial to this whole BS right now? Let me
yeah,
call Lisa and see what she thinks for an advice. And she goes, well, I've seen weddings like this or that or the other thing. And what cousins should I invite? When do you last see them? Obviously, you're not going to tell someone who they can and cannot invite, but you can give your advice to,
right.
I've seen weddings on all of these different things. And then there's someone who's impartial.
Yep.
And it's someone that, like, yes, someone's going to pay you to do something, but in the same sense, you're going to give your honest opinion. I know Lisa. She doesn't hold anything back. She'll tell you how she feels and she'll tell you what's going on, and not in a mean way, but just in a way that this is exactly how, like, she's not going to hide or sugarcoat anything. She's
No,
going to tell you, even if you're paying
you're
her.
paying me for a reason, right? You're paying me to be honest with you. And like, we get creative with those ideas. So we for my wedding, we had 75 people, because that's as much as the venue could have. And my husband's family, immediate family, is 35. And so, and so we had to get creative of how we were going to cut that guest list. And so we said, you had to know us for at least 3 years. And by saying that, it eliminated coworkers, because my husband and I had both been at our jobs for less than 3 years at that point, except for both of our bosses, because Brian's boss at the time ended up marrying us, and then my boss at the time ended up making our wedding cake, which was lovely. And so we said, you had to know us for at least 3 years. And so it was just a easy way that both of us could have an equal playing field of how we invited people. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, well, no second cousins, or, well, we like, they live closer, so we're going to invite more of them, or whatever that is. But yeah, you can get creative.
And you obviously we dealing with COVID. So COVID, we had 50 people, so we had to get creative. And so there
Yeah.
was times where like I had, Taylor's stepdad was like pretty sad about us not inviting some of the his side of the family. And it was like my mom, my dad, my brother. My other brother couldn't make it because he lives in Virginia, and his restaurant just opened back up, so he had to work. My grandmother and my aunt and uncle. That was my side of my family.
Yeah.
Taylor's side of her family had way more people. And so
Yeah.
I have my surrogate family in a sense that I consider, Mike and Karen and Addie and Casey and all them. But still, it was just kind of funny. It was like we invited as many people as we possibly could. There were some definites. We need to invite these people, whether they're friends or family. And then beyond that, there was like 3 extra slots, and we're like, how are we going to fill this without, And so yeah, COVID would be a very good way to explain to people.
COVID is a fantastic, if there's a silver lining, right? Like, not saying COVID is fantastic. I'm saying
Yes.
there is a silver lining to COVID, and that is that it is the perfect excuse for not doing almost anything.
And
I
it
know.
was funny because I hope no one takes it the wrong way, but I was able to uninvite a lot more people, meaning that we had 80 people, 75 people, 80 people on our list. We had to get down to 50. So
Yeah.
we obviously those 25 to 30 people, we had to like just say, hey, sorry, you can't come. But
Yeah.
then I added 15 or 20 people to that list that say they couldn't come because we were hoping to stream it live. We
Right.
ended up having some complications. We weren't able to do that, but it was like, if I can stream it, then I can tell 15 people more that they were going to be invited, but now they're not. Like it was this weird aspect of I could invite. You said the 3-year thing. I can invite all those 3-year thing people's.
Yeah.
You can only watch it online. Sorry, if you want to get dressed up and have cocktails and do all that stuff, cool. Like send us
Right.
pictures. But like you have to be at home to watch it. We can't just because of
And
the
that,
venue size or COVID.
right. And that's something that I'm really intrigued to see what aspects of life in COVID remain. Because let's say, you do have friends or family, you're getting married in Maine and they live away and can't come. They've got a lot of kids or health problems or whatever. You've got so many vendors now that are equipped to offer Zoom in your wedding, that they could have a cocktail party at home, in Arizona or wherever they are, and still get to experience your wedding here in Maine. So I think there are some good things that we're experiencing right now in a time where it's very stressful. The other thing to consider, and this is just a thought for anybody that's planning a wedding, recently engaged, or looking to plan a wedding in the future, is that a lot of weddings for this year have been moved over to 2021. So we're working with couples that are booking into 2022, and in some cases 2023, if the venue that they want is not available. And so that's something to think about. That's where I like getting a little creative of what your venue looks like, and how many people, and that sort of thing. Because one, we don't know if weddings in the summer of 2021 are going to be able to happen the way that a lot of people in June and July saying, oh, we'll just postpone to next year, thought they are going to, think that they're going to. So there are a lot of dates already on the books for 2021 into 2022, and starting into 2023 if a big wedding is in your vision. But there's no reason you can't have a micro wedding or an elopement and then do something bigger when we're allowed to do that again.
And I guess there's two parts of this as we get closer to finishing this up, was the idea that having a wedding planner is almost more important now than it ever has been, because if you have set dates of July 21st, 2021 or whatever,
Yeah.
and you had a wedding planner, they go, well, the venue won't let you do this because you only have this many people, but we can do this. But I tell you what, you can have a more badass wedding if you go to do this place over here, less people, but we can do this, that, and the other thing, and make it so that's your perfect day for you. And the other side of that's why I decided we were just going to do what we did. Like, we're getting married on August 8th. I don't give a crap. We're going to do it. We did it because who knows
Right.
if you postpone
Right.
till next year, if you can do it again. It was like we talked about at the beginning of this episode. It was like March. I was like, oh my God, August is so far away.
Yeah.
And then in August, when we postponed our honeymoon to hopefully January, as we get past the wedding and into September now, and guys go, there's no way in January I'm going to Arizona. So like now it's like to this point now, when we postpone our honeymoon twice now, it's now
Yeah.
indefinite.
Yeah.
Now it's like indefinite. Now it's in the future. So it's having a wedding planner is almost more important now than it would ever be, because of the fact that that person is now going to try to find you other ways. The amount of times we Googled who can bake a cake and who can do this, that, and the other thing, it's hard. And so, especially in Maine, because there's not a lot of things, like Bangor area,
Yeah.
we tried to find someone who could make cakes. There's not a lot. There's not a lot of people that makes cakes.
There's not like this is the disservice of Maine, right? Is that we are sometimes really really good at being referral only, right? And there's a benefit to that. One, you get to dictate your schedule, low overhead, but it makes it really hard to search for you. And so having somebody that knows where to find those people is important, because they are around. There's a whole underground network of people in Bar Harbor that don't even advertise, and it's just a referral based system. And so if you know them, then you know where to go. But like you said, if you're coming from away or your family's here, how do you navigate that?
And having someone on your side, like we just talked about, is amazing. And I love when I saw it. I wasn't able, because I was working on Saturday, so I wasn't able to join your happy hour with Brian, which I love what you guys do, because obviously I love to talk and I love this podcast. I love all this kind of stuff too. And so seeing you guys do it is amazing. And Taylor wants to get you and Brian on our Married Into This podcast to talk our marriages in general, how you guys met and all that stuff. But I wasn't able to watch it. So after, when I got home that night, I was like, okay, I want to find out what this announcement is though. Like, what is going on here? And I got to it. I was like, it wasn't, people make announcements or make comments online and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's what it was.
Right,
Oh,
right,
good
right,
luck with that. Like,
right.
oh yeah. But when you made it, it kicked into the key things that yes, you could do it. I don't have any you know, Lisa, when I knew you at Gagan's, were a go-getter. You always did your thing. I was sad when you left Gagan's, because I hated when you were leaving the beer industry. But then it was almost jealous that you left the beer industry and went and did something at a company that is well respected, and the company that I'd love to work with at one day. You know, if I ever had that opportunity, would be great. But yeah, and then you doing
Shameless
this
plug for yourself, right?
was that.
Shameless plug,
No,
right?
it's one of those things. I will be at Orono Brewing Company till the day I die. That's just. But the idea is to be able to do what I do for a more wide variety of
Yeah.
prospects and companies and customers. It's, I worked 12 years in marketing. I did most of my marketing in churches and then at car dealerships. And now I'm at a beer. But like, if I could just have a company in my own that
So that's
does
like the
things for
middle
all
of
of
both of
those,
those, right?
yeah.
Cars,
And so
church.
like, and you're doing something that you love to do. And so, but I have a faith that you and Brian are a great couple, and what your wedding was like, and what marriage is like, and all that stuff. So like, I was like, oh, this is amazing. And that's immediately when I added you to my list of who I need to talk to for the podcast. But it was like, I already scheduled out. I'm scheduled out with guests basically until the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and then Josh Moulton, owns Queen City Cinema Club in downtown Bangor, is getting ready to open back up, but he's doing some construction projects, and he was supposed to be a guest today to talk about horror movies. And he's like, dude, I can be on there for like 20 minutes. Like, we'll do it another time. Focus on your business. And
Pivot.
so that's what I, messaged Lisa. I was like, Lisa, can you get on tomorrow? Let's do this tomorrow, because I would love it. It's perfect timing. You just announced it. Let's get it out there. Let's talk to people. Winter weddings are not a bad thing in Maine. They're a
No.
really good thing in Maine. You have to deal with snow, but other than that, I honestly think that it's gonna be beautiful. If you have a trouble getting to your wedding, your photos are gonna be amazing.
Right.
So there's
Right.
like those back and forth things like that.
There's a
But
highlight, right? And the money that you like, if you were gonna have a lot of people at your wedding, have a pared down wedding and stay at the venue longer, or make that part of your honeymoon experience. I think that there is really something magical about just relaxing as part of your wedding weekend, right? And so just taking those moments in with the people that are close to you and your significant other. And we often think of a wedding as one day, and then the next day is cleanup, or you've got Friday's the rehearsal dinner, and then you've got the wedding Saturday, and then it's take a couple of days, whether it's before or after the wedding, and just Just
I
relax.
highly recommend. Taylor and I, one of the biggest things that we made a decision on prior to is get married on a Saturday, which is what typically happens.
Yep.
We took Friday off the whole day. I played golf with some friends Friday morning just to
Yep.
get some like for stress release, get out there with the guys. We came back. We did our rehearsal dinner because we couldn't get to the venue until tomorrow, the next day, at
Hmm.
our house. We had pizza, very
Yeah.
low key, very easy. We hung out with people, drank some beer, hung out. The following day, we did the whole wedding. The next day, we came home. We cleaned up a little bit, relaxed, went back to work Monday till Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Friday, we took off and went on our honeymoon.
Yeah.
The number of times I've heard people so stressed about trying to get off on their honeymoon the next day after their wedding,
Yeah.
honestly, take a
Oh,
few extra days, then wait, then go away. It's no different. I'm sorry. There's no like, oh, because you waited a week, it's not your honeymoon anymore. Wait a
no.
week. I think it's amazing because, yes, you may have to go back to work and do work, but at least you come home at night and you can relax for 4 or 5 nights, clean up the house, make sure it's in order. So when you get back from your honeymoon, you're not stressed. That idea, like you said, take some time around it is absolutely perfect. And
Yeah.
in this COVID situation, most of us might not be able to go on honeymoons.
Right.
So take some time afterwards and just relax and then plan a honeymoon when you can go away. Cause
And
we're,
oftentimes you've got family, whether it's traveling from one end of the state or from away coming to Maine. They're coming to see your wedding. You're busy during your wedding. A lot of couples don't remember that. Your great aunt or your favorite cousins. They're coming to see you, and then you take off for your honeymoon the next day, and you got to spend maybe 15 minutes with them. Um, that's my favorite thing is post wedding brunches or barbecues and just hanging out, and we can help plan those too.
yeah, we did that. We did, because of COVID, we couldn't do it. We were supposed to, the whole plan was to stay at Lucerne and do brunch at Lucerne
Yeah.
with my, what we call one big happy family, my parents and her parents. But because of COVID, they're not doing, um, uh,
The brunch
brunch.
buffet.
So we ended up shifting it just at our house. Taylor's mom and stepdad came, and her stepbrother, and my parents came, and it was one of the best. I tell people to this day. I told my
Yeah.
in-laws, it was one of the better parts of the whole weekend. It was like my parents and my in-laws together in the same room, just talking. It wasn't about the wedding. It wasn't planning the wedding. It was like, okay, now they're family now, and this is like there's something that my ex and I didn't have, which is my parents and them didn't talk to the
Right.
and the day after our marriage happened, they were in the same room talking, and my mom now messages my in-laws, and so it's like this
And not
whole
feeling right, not feeling like you're on, like there's a photographer and like all of this stuff happening. um like going back to making people smile, to making people relaxed, it's offering those opportunities of you know genuine connection, right? And so I don't know how many people would advocate for, on your behalf of you need to do this for, the day after or whatever. But if I can do that, like that's what
and you
I would.
and you probably would have known that Lucerne wasn't doing brunch.
Yeah.
Like we didn't like it was one of those things like we called the night before to like or when we checked into the hotel, like, no, sorry. I'm like, oh crap, now we have to like what can we do? And it ended up working out. But again, the smallest thing could be have them come back to your house
Yeah.
and just relax on your patio if it's the summertime and enjoy the weather and
Get four
whatever or
to do like a hodgepodge of breakfast pastries
Mhm.
and juices with mimosas and all that stuff.
And it
Just
worked
hang
out
out.
in our benefit because my mom bought way too much stuff and we had breakfast and juice and stuff like that for the rest of the week before we went on our honeymoon. So it was perfect. It saved us money and I had brunch for the breakfast the rest of the week. But I could talk to Elisa about this for hours because we both enjoy, first of all, talking. I
True story.
pretty sure, yeah. But also, like I said, I just got married. I'm still on the high of being married. Lisa just is launching a business that's all about marriage. So I'm sure I do want to, like I said, I want to talk you and Brian's relationship, how you guys met and all that stuff on the Married Into This podcast that Taylor and I do. But I'm so happy that you were able to come on.
That's a fun story. So anybody listening to this, they want another. That's probably the highlight story that you should listen to
Well,
because
and you're on the top. Like I messaged you a while ago because we launched that Married Into This podcast during COVID again,
yeah,
time of the we had the time and so on. And I was like, we want to talk to couples. Like there's some couples that I want to talk to because it's just like I love them as couples, but I
yeah,
also want to hear where their stories are. And we've never had like we're friends from a couple of years, but we've never been able to sit down and have dinner together with you and Brian, just talk. So there's other people that may get your story that we just have never gotten because there's no opportunities for that to happen. And so our lives both move super
It
fast.
starts,
And
it starts with me refusing to date Brian. So if that is a hook that anybody needs, there you go.
so what I'm learning is Brian is persistent. Okay.
Yep.
Is he pretty sad with the Celtics losing last night, or is he doing
He was
okay?
upset about the Cowboys losing to my Seattle
Okay.
Seahawks.
There you go. I know probably our old former coworker for both of us, Jordan Guy, is probably pretty sad about the Celtics losing, but
yeah,
I am.
more upset that they didn't air the game because they in our market they chose to air the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game because of Tom Brady, and so
Weird.
they didn't play the Cowboys Seahawks game, which was a higher standing game, but my team
But
still won.
I'm happy. I'm really happy you came on here. Also, if anybody needs communications and marketing stuff too, reach out to you as well, because Sutherland Westland. I can't say that. I'm so hard saying that.
Weston Marketing Communications in
There you
Bangor.
go. Yeah.
We offer statewide marketing and communications, PR, website design. That's my shameless plug of the day.
And if you back when we were allowed to open up Orono Brewing Company in downtown Bangor, I'm sure if you said, "Hey, Lisa, I want to meet you for talk about marketing and communications over a pint at Orono Brewing Company," you won't say no.
Or your wedding. Yeah, let's meet.
See, there you go. I wish we were open now. Now you could just meet there all the time. We're just gonna have a permanent seat for you guys at the at the bar.
Right? Just put up a tab.
Exactly. So I really appreciate it, and taking some time out of your day to do this as well. I hope that people could contact you. So it's Getting Married in Maine is at Facebook, Instagram, and then gettingmarriedinmaine.com.
Yes, gettingmarriedinmaine.com is a work in progress, but it's up. So you can check it out, and it'll be updating. Yeah.
Info at gettingmarriedinmaine.com is how you can email her too and ask any questions. So I really appreciate it, Lisa. It was nice talking to you, and we'll talk to you again soon. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.